Hello class, welcome back to the Chong channel. Right now we're going to go over some problems that might be on the finals. So question number 1 reads as follows. A ball is thrown into the air from the top of a building. The height h is a function of t of the ball above the ground in t seconds after it is thrown can be modeled by h is a function of t equals negative 16t squared plus 64t. How many seconds after being thrown will the ball hit the ground? Okay, so I should have annotated. So the height is h is a function of t, ball above the ground, t seconds after it is thrown. This is the function, and we're looking for how many seconds after it is being thrown will the ball hit the ground. Now, once again, here, h is a function of t, that's height. T is the time in seconds. Now, if something hits the ground, the height is 0. Okay, so anytime something hits the ground, the height is 0. So what we're going to do is substitute h is a function of t with 0 and copy the rest of the equation as is. Now, this is a quadratic equation and it can be solved in multiple manners. It can be done graphically, factoring, by completing the square, or quadratic formula. Now, the common favorite would be quadratic formula since it always works. So let me do that for this question. So a quick review on the quadratic formula: x equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now, we're going to start writing the values for a, b, and c. So a is the coefficient of t squared, and so it's negative 16. B is the coefficient of t, so here it's positive 64. And c is the constant, but here we have no constant, so the constant is 0. So now one thing you need to remember is when you're substituting the values of a, b, c into the quadratic formula, you must put parentheses around the values. So here I will put x equals negative, and now when I'm substituting the b value, I'm putting parentheses and then I'll put the b plus or minus square root. So once again, I'm substituting my b value, so I'm going to put parentheses 64 squared minus 4. I'm substituting my value for a, so that's negative 16. I'm substituting my value for c, so I put that in parentheses and I put 0. So if you look here, everything in green is what I substituted, and whatever I wrote in black is what is in the original formula for the quadratic formula. 2 times a, so since I'm plugging in a, I'm going to put parentheses, and a is here negative 16. So little by little, we're simplifying, and so here we have x equals negative times 64, that's negative 64, plus or minus square root. Now, I'm going to keep my square root on paper, and then I'll put all of whatever's inside here into the calculator. And so when I do that, I'm going to get 4,096 all over 2 times negative 16 is negative 32. So once again, we're simplifying. Negative 64 is negative 64 plus or minus. Now the square root of 4,096 is 64, so let me write that down. So quadratic functions have 2 answers because it's variable squared. That's 2 of the variables. So now here we have 2 answers. We have negative 64 plus 64 over 32, and we have negative 64 minus 64 over 32. So negative 64 plus 64, that's 0, divided by 32, that's 0. Now let's think for a moment. We wanted to find how many seconds after the ball was thrown in the air will it hit the ground. Well, this is saying that the time is going to be 0. Does that make sense? It took no time for the ball to hit the ground? No. So we're going to omit that answer because it makes no sense whatsoever. And so now, oops, I made a mistake here. This was a negative 32. Okay, so let's keep that. Sorry about that. So here, negative 64 minus 64, that's negative 128. Divided by negative 32 is going to be positive 4. So what this is saying is it took 4 seconds for the ball to reach the ground. And so that is our answer. I hope that helped. Bye-bye.